back with you tonight. King Mswati the Third has called for calm and dialogue in the Kingdom of Eswatini following a visit by the SADC Region mediators to try to resolve a national crisis and deadly unrest. But some opposition political parties and civil society organizations say the King's call for dialogue is a ploy to mislead the mediators. Eswatini has been rocked by pro-democracy demonstrations that broke out in June, prompting authorities to deploy the army. The talk, of course, here to talk to us right now, about the developments on the ground is Mlungisi Makhanya, who is the president of the People's United Democratic Movement. Makhanya, good evening. Good to have you with us again. When we spoke to you last, of course, the envoy was landing in Eswatini, or at least had just landed for its fact-finding mission, and I suppose level of intervention to whatever degree they could possibly put in place. Talk to me about what happened in the next following couple of days and whether or not it is the type of intervention that you would thought would have happened.
Good evening, and good evening to Newzroom Afrika viewers. Thank you very much for this opportunity. What has happened is that we met with the special envoy and the entire delegation. We presented what we believe is a clear plan on what needs to happen on the ground in terms of the way forward. We tabled clear 5 key points on what we think needs to happen. Of course, the envoy did hint to us around what the king has said in relation to Ingwala. We do not believe that Mswati is committed to any form of dialogue. And we think that President Cyril Ramaphosa shouldn't be misled, even for a moment, to believe that a man who's continuing to unleash his military on defenseless and unarmed citizens will be serious about any form of dialogue.
Yeah. Has the crackdown continued? I mean, are you hearing of more arrests, more attacks, even following that call for calm by the king?
Yes, the crackdown continues. Tomorrow, 5 young learners will be appearing at the High Court, charged with treason and other terrorist-related charges. But also the raid of communities both in urban and rural areas continues unabated. So the soldiers are still not back at the barracks. We were hoping, obviously, that President Ramaphosa, through the special envoy, will make a clear call to Mswati that the first thing that must happen, if indeed anyone is intended in seeing calm in Swaziland, is to say they must put down the arms. It is unacceptable for any government to unleash arms on unarmed citizens. That should be the first demand.
So as Pudemo, you have outright then rejected the call to talks?
We have not rejected any calls to talks as Pudemo. What we have rejected is the gimmick by Mswati of saying we can only engage in talks after Ingwala, and also that such talks needs to take place at the Royal Crawl. We do not accept that as Pudemo. We think that that in itself is an indication that is not serious about any meaningful, genuine talks. But also we want to emphasize the point that this mal-touted Ingwala has nothing to do with us as a Mswati. It is a royal ritual for Mswati and his family that represented nothing but a misery for the majority of Swazis. During this period of Ingwala, it is notorious for ritual murders. And today we received information about some mysterious matters that have already taken place where people have missing parts who have been found dead. We are sort of accustomed that during this period we see a spike in those sort of things. So this is not our culture, this is not our practice, this is a family ritual.
Now, there are some reports saying the pro-democracy protest has called for citizens to make Swaziland ungovernable, at least the Swaziland Solidarity Network calling for that. Do you support that call?
Indeed, indeed. We support the call of making Swaziland ungovernable and Tinkhundla unworkable until such time that the king commits to an all-inclusive, genuine dialogue that will see all stakeholders seated around the table to make up a clear way forward for our country. We do not believe that we should allow a regime that has killed so many innocent citizens to even have a minute of peace.
So what are the obstacles then, as far as you're concerned, that stand in the way towards dialogue? You mentioned, first of all, you're saying the military must return to the barracks. That's one of them. What are the other challenges that stand in the way of dialogue?
Well, the honorable members who continue to languish in jail must be released immediately. That is Honorable Bacete Mabuza and Honorable Mthandeni Dube. Our internationalist comrade Amos Mbedzi must be released. Our exiled comrades, including the exiled member of parliament, Mduduzi Melane, must be allowed to return. Together with all the political exiles, political parties must be unbanned, including the organization that I represent, Pudemo, that is criminalized under the Suppression of Terrorism Act. And we must be allowed free access to all media houses, and journalists must be allowed to report objectively and fairly without any hindrance, including the fact that the judiciary must be allowed space to decide on matters that are before it without any interference from the regime.
And the quiet, or at least the calm, that is currently on the ground to some extent, of course an uncomfortable calm, how long do you expect that to be?
Well, there is no calm in Swaziland. What is happening is that, for instance, we will see a resumption of protests come Thursday. The Trade Union Federation has already called a mass action. But people continue to protest in various communities. And I think this false sense of calm is nothing but the creation of government and the king to try and fool President Ramaphosa and the leadership of SADC that there is some resemblance of calm. There can never be calm in Swaziland so long as the MPs are languishing in jail. There can never be calm in Swaziland so long as our exiled comrades are still not back in the country.
All right, a quick update there coming from Pudemo President Mlungisi Makhanya.